Thank you very much. I'm going to make this brief. I want to start off by thanking Chesky Stern and Jack Jaffa. And I'm going to hold no punches. I apologize for those that don't know me. That's just me, and get used to it. I was in Florida on vacation with my family when Chesky called me up. I did not know him at the time, on a conference call with Jack. Sounding on the phone was somebody shaking, and I was just imagining who this person is on the other end of the line. And the words he said were, "I'm done, I'm done." You're done? What are you done with? Who are you? What do you do? Do I know you? To which he then continued to share with me that he was part of the Flatbush Chevra Kadisha together with Jack Jaffa, and he was completely frustrated with doing tahara after tahara on members of our community that died of overdoses, and having to stories as to how this person died, what happened to the family once, and that effort spearheaded where we are tonight. So I'm sorry that Chesky and Jack is part of what I had to experience. I need to at least say that I'm happy people are waking up, sad about the reason why. Last summer I published an article that got more attacks than anything else I've written. It was tied 77 deaths since included a breakdown of overdoses and suicides. This is not July. If I were to publish one today, Dr. Perlman, I'm sorry, I'm going to say, since January 1st, over 100 under the age of 35. We're actually one of 11 deaths in the last 5 weeks under the age of 35 from our community. These are the raw facts that we're seeing. Now, when I say under the age 35, I have to touch on something that Dr. Blumenthal just mentioned. I only go based on the numbers 35 and under because if I really want to get attacked and ostracized, and we start talking about the 47-year-old with the aneurysm, or the 51-year-old that hit his head in the shower, or the 51-year-old that had a heart attack on a plane, and then we realized the track marks on their arms and it was really overdose. Now that's going to affect the show of their kids, so we'll continue saying what's not. That's okay. We can continue to keep our head in the sands, make believe our community members are not dying from this epidemic. Let's just remain more focused when there's shekels from India. We can also proudly bring our shekels or worry about please, let's go. Let's focus on the filters and the things from the waters and the bugs and the fish, because those are the situations that is destroying lives all today. But the over 2,000 victims of sexual abuse that we're treating, the over 900 addicts, of which the bulk of them were molested or destroyed by their yeshiva and school systems, and I use that word destroyed, I should say they were murdered by them, that's not our priority. You know what? I think the younger generation should clap for that. Thank you. Unfortunately, what all the doctors said before are true. What we can do to help? So I'm going to say it. I'm going to give a lot of Torah Masorah and Tzvi Bloom for doing a lot of work, starting Project Lishmar and program, and really trying to bring education and awareness in school settings. But it's just not enough. DrugAbuse.gov, drug addiction in the high school, public schools are going low. In our yeshiva system, we cannot sustain. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that every high school doesn't have mandatory alcohol and drug screening. And that who's using not sitting in a group of 100 Rosh Yeshivas, and either they tell me, drugs. I hear one high school with more than 35 students, we'll call it, to let me randomly drug test our kids and prove me wrong. Because I'll tell you, I do not know of one that can say 0 drugs in their high school today. I don't know any high school within 2 degrees of separation can get any access to drugs, either directly or indirectly. 2 phone calls. I don't know. But then the yeshivas tell me People in yeshiva drug tests, they won't send to us. So on that I say, we the parents, and we see that this works. It's worked with bringing in safety programs for our children. It's worked in other areas. We the parents have to step up and tell our schools, this is what we expect of you. The Zika virus did not kill anywhere near as many people or destroy as many pregnancies as the drug epidemic did in the frum community. Yet we all go and sleep at night. And I gotta tell you, if I sound angry, it's because I am. It's because this past week, at Levaya, we had another 14-year-old boy. Looking around in the base island were 4 fresh matzevis of friends and acquaintances of his. All together in one area, less than 50 feet apart from each other. I'm sorry, that hurts me. When I was 19 years old, 2 of my closest friends died back to back. One of them hung himself and left a very, very detailed suicide note. And yes, Dr. Norman, I'm going to say the word suicide because that's what it is, and I'm not a clinician. Not you. I'm saying not you. I'm saying the industry. I'll say. And left the detailed suicide note. And another friend of mine died in a car accident. That's when I started my career in this field. We talk about what else we can do. We're currently fighting. So any step that anybody can do. We also talk about awareness. So awareness is very, very important. We specialize in awareness. It's been an honor to work with Ohel. This is our second together on addiction and but awareness is only good if we can provide A, the service for those that are now reaching out for help, and B, if we can provide a health and safety community. I'm back. What everybody else said. Anybody can get sober. And if we can't provide a job, a sense of unity, a sense of support, or show the addicts that we care, which starts by us accepting the fact that addiction is a disease. It's an illness. The next time somebody looks at me in my office and I ask them for me to pay for a family member or a friend of theirs who's an addict, and they tell me, what did I pay that guy to go use drugs? It's my fault. I'm going to smack him in the face. Because that's what I feel like doing every time I hear it. Completely unacceptable. I never had anybody tell me, oh, that kid got cancer? It must be above and beyond. I never heard that. But I have no problem with people blaming the addict. That's got to stop now. Because if you want to know why people are addicts, one of the best, the most beautiful families, we won't be surprised. I can assure one. So let's stop pointing fingers at other people and be there to help them with whatever they need. Whether it's getting the schools to change their structure, whether it's financially helping, I'm sure you guys have seen GoFundMe's on a regular basis. My friends want me to go to rehab. People that don't know where to turn their phone, give them $10 a head. $5. That small dollar shows these people trying to raise the money for their friends that somebody else cares. So that's what we have to do. We can't sleep that this is a war. And we look at all the other issues in Israel, and I'm going to give tremendous credit where credit is due. When David Mendel got involved with Ohel, dealing with mental illness, developmental disabilities of that nature, were completely stigmatized. And through the heroic efforts of the board members and the people that support organizations like Ohel, that's changed. And when we talk about the issues of, kids at risk. Yankee Horowitz wrote an article in the Jewish Observer, that main story that blew up the issue of kids at risk. Well, we're talking now about life and death. And that's what's happening. So first of all, a big yashikayach to everybody here. Because by coming here tonight and listening to this, that's the first step for many people here to be able to understand this is what has to be done. And that's extremely important. But we need more. As much as we're trying to help get our Rabbanim to understand better, we need more. And let me just give a couple of small pointers. I'm going to make this short because I know it's late and I apologize. Number one, any school that throws a kid out, especially in high school, without making sure there's an appropriate school for that kid to go to is chayiv misa. Period. End of story. I wouldn't let someone walk into the house with a gun and shoot somebody. You do that in a school, you murdered that kid. I don't care who you are and how big your school is and what fancy names are on your building. You're a murderer. And we need to be able to tell that to those schools. Anyone here who sits on a board of a school, make it accurate. Enough of us. We also need to educate the parents a lot better. We also need to educate our parents better on chanach. Parents have to send kids to schools that are appropriate for those kids too. And if we as parents only want to send our kid to an elitist school that has a certain brand name or a ring to it, and our kid is not meant for that, we are also killing our kids. And that's got to stop as well. And we see that all too often. We also need to make sure, and I'm going to say this very quickly only because this is what this event was about, and I like people to know the truth. So first of all, 7 of the 11 karbanis from the last 5 weeks, we know for sure were thrown out of schools and more than one, without a replacement being found. That we know for a fact. We also know for a fact that early detection in all of those cases would have been tremendous, whether it's figuring out that these kids were molested when they were younger, had learning disabilities, had other issues at home. These are things that we have the power to empower our school systems to change, and that's what we have to do. You know, I give a lot of credit to Rabbi David Ozeri, who got up at the Aguda convention or Torah Masorah convention, I forget which one, and spoke about how our Rabbeim have to be paid more, and he's right. And of course, since my wife's a teacher, teachers should be paid more also, but we'll deal with that as well. But he's right. And that's all important. But if we're not doing our part in keeping our kids safe in the school setting, figuring out their issues and getting them early help, what are we doing? Schools, like Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson said last week, became a systems. It's a system of systems. And everyone plugs into the box. And if you fit in the box, you're good. And you don't fit in the box, you're bad. Guess what? I'd love nothing more than to go out of business at Amudim, and not because of lack of funds. Put me out of business. Get the schools to do their jobs. I beg you all. That, to me, would be a huge personal favor, probably to my wife and kids as well. But it's important to note a few things, and I'm going to wrap up. Number one, if you show up in a Kiddush on Shabbos, and you offer a guy next to you a l'chaim, and he says no, don't ask him again. You don't know if that person is refusing that drink because they are sober, because they are in recovery. You don't want to be the cause to push that addict back to the alcoholism that destroyed their life until that point, just because you want to be able to say that you had a l'chaim with so-and-so. They say no, it ends. Done. Another thing, stop personifying alcohol as something special. I grew up in a house, we made a l'chaim between the fish and the meat, that was it. I think my father still has that same bottle of whatever label it was called, or I don't even know what it was, from before my bar mitzvah. I see people coming home from these trips to Europe and Israel, and they're buying this 35-year specialty thing, putting it on top of the cabinet. What are you teaching your kids when you do that? What are you showing them? This is what's important. This expensive bottle of booze is what I look up to. How do you expect your child to not want to do that? That's a simple trick. You enjoy alcohol, kol hakavod. I believe in moderation, not prohibition. No problem, enjoy it. Like a mensch. Have a glass of wine. You want to talk to a friend about a quality wine? No problem. Don't make that the focal point of your Shabbos Suda or your Kiddush. And I can tell you, and I know Ohel gets these calls a lot, and we certainly get them at Amudim from wives whose husbands make 11 stops on the way home from shul, and each stop they have, of course, this other bottle and this next bottle, and by the time they roll home, forget about the fact, the language, the abuse to the wife, to the kids. Is this a way that we as from Yidden live? Absolutely not. We want to talk about addiction, we'll talk about where it starts. Schools and homes. Let's be the examples that our children and the next generation need us to be. At the end of the day, this is why we're here. And I really want to say thank you, Mel, for really cheering this event tonight, and Jack, and Pesky. And I want to thank Derek Saker, where is Derek? He's hiding someplace, and David Mendel from Ohel. And I'm going to end with a quick story. People, especially last summer, when I decided to go on the attack on the world for not dealing with these issues. So I learned something from our illustrious president, but I did it before the election. Every time I got attacked, I just doubled down and went further. And I'll keep doing it, because kids are dying, something's got to happen. You know, we can all go back and go to sleep at night. Unfortunately, it's not as easy for me. So people like to make fun of me. They see me on the street and go, what's the number up to? Because I send out an email every week and I detail the deaths, and I don't mind publicizing it. You know, usually a week or two behind. People shouldn't always figure it out. And at the most recent Levi, I'll never forget, 3 Levi's ago, where after we walked out, the father was holding mine and Rabbi Wallerstein's hand. We were walking out together. And somebody made this comment in front of the father, and I thought this was great. He goes, so Gluck, you happy now? You got another number to talk about. And the father looked at this guy and said, what did you just say? That number is my daughter. That's not a number we're talking about. And then he turned to me and said, Tzvi, please talk about it. This is not just a number. There are still people very insensitive to this. And then people like to say to me, do you think you're really going to make a difference? I say, I really don't know, but I'll certainly try. But I'm going to say this story and then I'll end. Everybody here has heard of the organization called Dar Yesharim, right? So Dar Yesharim was founded by a Rabbi Eckstein, who unfortunately lost a number of children due to Tay-Sex. And when he started Dar Yesharim, I don't want you to think for 1 second that he didn't have fighting on him. He was put into Chayrim. Rabbanim said, what do you think, you're playing God? Who should marry who? His life was really made to be a living Gehenna. But he fought it, he fought it, he fought it. And to the point now that it's household, I don't know any high school or seminary that doesn't try to get their kids ready to do the test. Kingsbrook Jewish Medical Center had a Tay-Sex ward. Tay-Sex ward back then was a fancy way of saying hospice for children that were going to die anyway. A couple of years ago, they called up Rabbi Eckstein and they asked him to please come for an important meeting that they needed to have in the hospital. And he shows up at the meeting, and there was an entire ceremony they were waiting for him. They were rededicating and renaming that ward to something else because they haven't had a new case in a number of years. That's a man that changed the world by putting up a fight. This week, we learned the Parsha of Pinchas. And I look at one of my mentors, the late Rabbi Rani Greenwald, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, as someone who was a Pinchas in his generation. And I say, we all now have the obligation to be the Pinchas in this generation. To stand up for what's right, not for what's popular. Take that kid on the street, show him you love him, show her you care. Support in any way you can, emotional, financial, going to the schools, pressure, communal, do whatever you can so that we can only speak about good things. Thank you very much. And I'll look it up.